Was there anyone who tried to warn us about something that happened but we didn't listen? Who? Tried to tell Mom she was sick 5 years ago. Miss you, Mom. Harry Marco Polo's notified the SEC 3 times that whatever Bernie Madoff was doing wasn't legit and should be investigated, and all 3 times he was ignored. He talks about it in his book No One Would Listen. Check it out if you want to see a real facepalm example of government incompetence. Rick Rescorla, Director of Corporate Security for Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, published a report in 1990 detailing the vulnerability of the World Trade Center parking garage. He and a colleague found they were able to freely walk into the garage, which contained many structural support columns, unchallenged by any security. Additionally, no ID checks or screening was done on any of the entering delivery vehicles. 3 years later, a truck bomb was driven into the garage and detonated in an attempt to damage the building's structure. Later, he and his same college would correctly predict the next attack on the building would come from the air. The evacuation plan and drills he put in place are credited with saving over 2,600 lives on September 11. Edited for a bit of clarity, some are saying, but if he evacuated people, doesn't that mean we listened? Rick worked for one company in the building, not the Port Authority who managed the building's overall safety plan. After the first plane crashed, the announcements from the Port Authority told everyone to shelter in place, and not evacuate. He had developed his own evacuation plan for his employees and put it in place before any official word to evacuate the building was given. Roger Boishteli, https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/Roger_Boishteli, /engineer involved with the Space Shuttle program who warned his superiors for months prior to the Challenger disaster that launching in cold weather could cause the O-rings to fail. Care to guess what caused the Challenger disaster? Turkish Airlines Flight 981 https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/Turkish_Airlines_flight_981 would never have happened if McDonnell Douglas and Convair had heeded. Dan Applegate's https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/Dan_Applegate, warning about the cargo doors coming open during flight. He wrote a memo after the non-fatal American Airlines Flight 96 https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/American_Airlines_flight_96, advising that the doors had design flaws which would cause them to show as properly latched even when they weren't. If nothing were done, he said it would lead to catastrophic failure that would likely result in the loss of the plane. However, the fixes would be expensive and no one agreed who would eat the cost, so proper upgrades were put off. Instead, they tried implementing cheaper band-aid solutions that would ultimately prove ineffective. Ignaz Semmelweis, often described as the father of hand washing. In the 1800s he discovered that infant maternal mortality could be drastically reduced by doctors washing their hands between patients. He was largely ignored and his book got absolutely slated. This is supposed to have contributed to him having a mental breakdown and he died in a psychiatric hospital. 12 TRW engineers resigned their positions the morning of the Challenger incident in protest against risking the flight. NASA launched anyway. Should have listened. French General Ferdinand Foch reportedly called the Treaty of Versailles a 20-year armistice, not conducive to lasting peace. World War II broke out approximately 20 years later. H.G. Wells said he wanted his epitaph to be "I told you so. You damned fools." In The Land Ironclads, 1903, he had written about a stalemated war fought by trench warfare that was broken by the invention of tanks, predicting what would happen in World War I. In The War in the Air, 1907, he predicted how airplanes would be used in war, including aerial bombardment of cities, and saw his predictions come true in World War II. Etta Colleen Rowley warned her FBI superiors in June 1 that names on their jihadi watch list were taking flying lessons but not interested in learning how to land. Her report didn't get read until October. Bismarck warned the ruling German monarch of his time that Germany's status in Europe and the relative peace of the continent would last for only a short time. After his forced resignation, Bismarck said, "Jena came 20 years after the death of Frederick the Great. The crash will come 20 years after my departure if things go on like this." 20 years later, Germany loses World War I and almost collapses. Li Wenliang https://n.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/Li_Wenliang, a Chinese doctor who tried to warn people through his private social media about COVID-19 in December 30, 2019. Was summoned by the police in China for spreading disinformation. The Chinese government had been the first COVID deniers. https://www.pbs.org/wgbh/frontline/article/a timeline of China's response in the first days of COVID-19 during the virus's earliest stage and contributed greatly to the global pandemic. Li died of COVID in Wuhan on February 7, 2020. Harry Markopolos. He figured out what Madoff was up to, and the SEC still blew him off for years, presumably because the proof he was presenting required math to understand. Pearl Jam warned us about Ticketmaster years ago. Nobody listened, now we're stuck with them, and only them. John O'Neill. He worked in the FBI as an anti-terrorist officer. After the car bombing of the World Trade Center in 1993, he remained convinced that Al-Qaeda would try to finish the job. The FBI convinced itself that it was over, and O'Neill, who kept at the investigation, was passed over for promotions to the point he wound up quitting the FBI. They thought he was too obsessed with it. He took a job managing security at the WTC and lost his life on September 11. Great doco about him and the security failures he wanted to prevent here. Frontline. The man who knew https://www.youtube.com/watch v equals pbxpqwggq5u. In 2005, Courtney Love was asked what advice she'd give young, up-and-coming actresses. She said if Harvey Weinstein invites you to a private party at his Four Seasons hotel room, don't go. And for whatever reason, you didn't see her in many movies after that. Every single junior officer working in Afghanistan for the last 20 years who universally call the ANA a worthless POS army and their government a hollow, dead money pit. Nikola Tesla, there was a book he wrote, a pamphlet really, called The Problem of Increasing Human Energy, https://www.amazon.com/problem increasing human energy harnessing/dp/165200956, where he talked about slowing down the process of burning carbon until we understood it better. While not to the degree that it ended up being, but Eddie Murphy took a shot at Bill Cosby's holier-than-thou attitude in his comedy special Raw in 1987 during the height of The Cosby Show. I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time, when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues, when the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide, almost without noticing, back into superstition and darkness. The dumbing down of America is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content in the enormously influential media, the 30-second sound bites, now down to 10 seconds or less, lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a kind of celebration of ignorance. Carl Sagan. Cassandra of Troy was pretty spot on about that wooden horse. President George Washington, In his address when leaving office, he warned against the danger of a two-party system in future politics. He felt that several parties on equal footing would be better, especially in presidential elections. The more legitimate choices, the better. Seth MacFarlane has made fun of sleazy people in Hollywood for years before the Me Too movement. Help I Just Escaped Kevin Spacey's house, says Stewie, running naked through a crowd of people. Lots of experts warned about the FTX fraud. The writing was on the wall. Idiots chose to ignore the red flags and made huge investments. Common people was lured in by the perceived trust. Johnny Rotten attempting to warn people about Jimmy Savile. Jason Salemi, epidemiologist at USF. No one knows him, that's cool. I was working on medical ML research, glioblastoma at the time, and was asked to help analyze some data about a new virus in China. In the middle of January, we had a research meeting, and Dr. Salemi said, "I don't like this one, I have a bad feeling about SARS-CoV, as it was then called." On February 2020, I was put full-time on the SARS-CoV-2 team. The rest is history. People thought he was being alarmist. We had recently been through a pair of Ebola outbreaks in Africa, couple of bad flu seasons, etc. People thought it would blow over. The CIA? Bin Laden determined to strike in U.S. was the title of the president's daily brief prepared by the Central Intelligence Agency and given to U.S. President George W. Bush on Monday, August 6, 2001. The brief warned, 36 days before the September 11 attacks, of terrorism threats from Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda, including patterns of suspicious activity in this country consistent with preparations for a hijacking of U.S. aircraft. Link https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/bin_Laden_determined_strike_us #bin_text=bin% 20 Laden% 20 determined%20 to %20 strike%20 inches %20 us%20 was%20 the %20 title. Monday 2C 20 August 206 2C 2020001. The financial crisis that was given by economist Anna Schwartz in 2005. She warned that a housing bubble was developing and that it would lead to a financial crisis, but her warnings were largely ignored. In college, this was in like 92. Me and my Muslim roommate were watching something on TV about Osama bin Laden. And he said, "This guy is determined to accomplish an attack on American soil. And it's going to happen in the next 10 years. At the time, I thought he was crazy. That would be a death sentence for anyone. I told him I'd give him all the money in my bank account if that ever happened. I was so sure. Yeah, we all should have been listening to the warning signs back then." Gary Webb https://i.reddit/ins128by51.jpg. He found ties linking them, edit, the CIA, to the crack epidemic that wasted inner cities in the 90s, and justified the war on drugs, while also destabilizing the Nicaraguan government. He was basically raked over the coals for it, and wound up committing suicide with 2 bullets to the head. President Eisenhower warned the United States about the dangers of the military-industrial complex as he was leaving office. We didn't listen. https://youtube.b/ggjv. Heinck 9y. Edit, u/destro23 made mention of this in an earlier comment that I missed. Give that comment the upvotes, not mine, there are quotations there too. David Attenborough, and I don't think we are listening, well, certainly not doing enough. Al Gore got an entire apology episode from the creators of South Park after they mocked him for trying to warn people about climate change. Edit, here's a clip from the episode https://www.youtube.com/watch. V equals J89 cube 4. My mother. Of course, she warned the 18 years old me about the scumbags I had as friends were going to hurt me one day. Did I listen? No. I was just so frightened of being alone, friendless, I didn't listen. Then I got hurt badly. Sinead O'Connor. Then we called her crazy and mocked her for 2 decades. TLC warned us about chasing waterfalls, but based on my Instagram feed, I swear it's fallen on deaf ears.